Hey guys, these are the instructions for class today on Thursday, November 12th. So after you have completed attendance, you want to access the Do Now slides and complete Do Now number 18. Today's question asks, what is a joule equal to? So we know that joule is the unit of measurement for work. And we know that to calculate work, we're going to multiply force times distance. The unit of force is the Newton, and the unit of distance is the meter, which makes 1 joule equal to option D, a Newton meter. So I just want to make you guys aware that this is a question pulled straight from your unit test. So the unit test will not fall until after Thanksgiving break, but it might just be worth starring or noting that. Otherwise, once you have completed today's Do Now, you can move on to the Work in Machines quiz, which again is open notes. So you can use the notes that you worked on 2 class periods ago and have a calculator with you as well. So the quiz will be posted to Google Classroom. You will want to make a copy of the quiz, and you will see that the quiz is going to have some questions that are worth 1 point and some questions that are worth 2 points, making it a total of 12 assessment points. The questions that are worth 2 points are going to require you to show your work and include a calculation. So please just make sure that for questions 2, 5, 6, and 7, you are including your solution by typing it out and including your final answer with units. Otherwise, if you guys can use a different color or highlight your answers, that would be great. It just makes it a little bit easier for me to grade. Once you are finished with the quiz and you have submitted it to Google Classroom, you have a few options for work today. So for both my remote learners and in-person learners, today is primarily just going to be an independent work day. So once the quiz is submitted, you have either of the following options to begin working on. The first and foremost important assignment would be to work on the Simple Machines presentation if you did not finish that last class. So the Simple Machines presentation is technically not due until next class, but because today is an independent work session, that is definitely what you should be working on once you have finished this quiz if you have not yet finished it. After you have completed the quiz and the Simple Machines presentation, you can optionally work on an extra credit assignment that will be posted to Google Classroom. So that assignment is titled Mechanical Advantage of Simple Machines, and you will want to make a copy of the document, answer the questions, and submit this. So this is optional, and you do have until the unit test to complete this. So if this is something that you're not able to work on today, but you want to work on in the future, you can definitely do that. And like I said, the unit test will not be until after Thanksgiving break, so that gives you some time to do it if you don't get around to it today. Otherwise, the third option would be to get a head start on the different forms of energy one-pager, which is what we'll primarily be working on next class, but you can start it today. So I do want to take a minute just to go over the rubric for the one-pager and how you're going to find the required information. So this will be posted as well. Like I said, you're going to want to pull up the rubric to see what needs to be included on your one-pager and how you'll be graded as well. Because there are a handful of learners who are in person and a handful who are remote, I am allowing students a digital option for this one-pager, but you can also do the traditional paper one-pager as well, especially if you have those supplies at home. For my in-person learners, there will be supplies on the desk next to my podium that you can borrow if you decide to do a paper one-pager. So I know that we have done several one-pagers before within science and possibly our other classes as well, but make sure you're looking over the design requirements, so including a heading with your name, a title, including color, making sure it's neat, and optionally you can include a border. So as mentioned, the theme of this one-pager is energy. So highlighted in yellow, you will find the required information that you need to put on your one-pager, starting with definitions and examples for the 7 forms of energy. So for example, chemical energy is defined as energy that's stored within bonds. An example of something that has chemical energy is a battery. So that would be one example and the definition for chemical energy. You need a definition for each of the 7 forms and 2 to 3 examples. Next, you'll want to include a definition for the term energy conversion and include 3 examples. So simply stated, an energy conversion is just when energy converts from one form to another. You can read the example below. You will want to include 3 examples like that. And then lastly, you are going to want to include a definition for the term conservation of energy. And this is something that we will discuss in further detail within our next set of notes. But just make sure you are including the definition. And one other thing I meant to note is that you do need to include illustrations for the 7 forms of energy. So if you're doing a digital one-pager, you can just find a picture from the internet. If you're doing a paper one-pager, just be sure to include that illustration. Lastly, this assignment is going to be graded out of 100 points, but it will only be worth a 50-point practice score. So the rubric has several different areas that you are going to be graded upon, and you'll see that you will be scored out of 100. But like I said, this is only going to be weighted as a 50-point practice score. Lastly, this assignment will be due on Thursday, November 19th, so that will be a week from today. That is also the day that most of my remote learners return in person. So for my remote learners, if you would like to wait to turn your one-pager until then, that works. If you are doing a digital one-pager, and this applies to both my in-person and remote learners, you can just upload it to Google Classroom. If you're doing a paper one-pager and you want to upload it to Classroom, that's fine as well. You just need to make sure that the image is clear. Otherwise, in order to find the information for your one-pager, you have a couple of options, one of which would be to read through Chapter 13 of the textbook, Section 1 and 2, and you'll see that this is going to include definitions for the forms of energy with examples, and then Section 2 will include your definitions for energy conversion and conservation. We do have a science encyclopedia within the classroom, so I found this page within it, and that also nicely includes some definitions for the different forms of energy and conservation of energy. And then lastly, you can always use the internet to gather this information as well. For my in-person learners, both the textbook and encyclopedia, there are hard copies found within the cabinets. Otherwise, these are the 3 options to work on for when you have completed the quiz. So that would be finishing the Simple Machines presentation, doing the extra credit, or working on the one-pager. If you have any questions, feel free to email me.